Hi, and welcome to Game Changer Chat. I'm your host, Zakia. Today, we're celebrating the 12th annual Autism Awareness Day, which is celebrated annually on April 2nd. It's to bring awareness to the hurdles in which individuals with autism have every single day. Our guest today is Reyma McCoy McDeid. Reyma, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to our conversation.
As do I. So can you please tell LinkedIn, why did you decide to begin your work in civic change and disability rights movement?
So my professional background is in the provision of human services, primarily to disabled people, but also other marginalized people. And I include individuals that are formerly incarcerated in that category as well, because a large number of people who have been incarcerated also experience a disability, whether or not they're aware of it. And so in doing that work, I've become very intimate in the gaps between the opportunities and the life experiences of disabled people in relation to the community at large, people who are not disabled. And so there's a lot of disparity in the disability community, and disabled people are actually the largest marginalized population, not only in the country, but on the planet. And so to have such a large number of people leading disadvantaged lives is not only detrimental to disabled people, but for our society as a whole. And so that's really what has brought me to this work.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. You're currently on the board of trustees for the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're utilizing your expertise to assist with conversations on intersectionality and disability rights movement?
Absolutely. So there's still this preconceived notion about autism that it's an experience that is primarily limited to men and boys and to white people. And so I'm a Black woman. I was diagnosed as autistic way back in 1986. And I have felt like an anomaly for 30 years now. And there are others out there who are African American, who are women, and who may or may not have that diagnosis of autism, but they also feel alone out there. And so more so than bringing any kind of clinical expertise into my service with ASAN, my primary focus has been on bringing visibility to African Americans who are on the autism spectrum and women.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Can you please tell LinkedIn your stance on empowerment of individuals with disabilities?
So when we think about the Black rights movement, we think of Black folks at the forefront of that. And when we think about the women's rights movement, we automatically assume that it's women leading that. And it's the same with regards to the LGBT rights movement, led by LGBT folks. But when you look at the disability rights movement, it's primarily parents, guardians, and advocates who are at the forefront of that movement. And that has been very impactful. I think that it's, in many respects, it's held the movement back, because we need to hear from actual disabled people. And the community needs to hear from actual disabled people. Visibility is the cure for marginalization. Well, at least it's the first step. And so that's why I've been so upfront about my own experience, because we need to hear from people like me about the experience of disability. More often than not, when we hear the word disability, we immediately think of somebody that is homebound. We don't think about folks that are just out in the world, working their jobs, raising children, going grocery shopping, doing what everybody else does. And I also, I preface it with the fact that I am an ordinary, everyday person, just like everybody else.
I appreciate your being so authentic, and I definitely concur that when people are transparent about their disabilities, that's when people can learn to be more inclusive with diverseness and accept individuals with disabilities. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for that. Can you tell LinkedIn how you think we can bridge the challenge of having to be vulnerable, as I am a little bit right now, and talking about personal experiences relating to diversity and openly examining systems of power in the context of employment barriers that we definitely see out there, the employment barriers?
Yes. So, I haven't always been so just open about my own experience, especially when I got my start in human services as a professional. I believed what I was told, what was the norm as far as being a service provider, that you keep your personal life outside the door, and you focus on the clients that you're working with, and are kind of like a blank slate to them, and they tell you everything about themselves and you tell them absolutely nothing about yourself. I realized very quickly that creates a wall between the individual that is being supported and the person that's providing the support. And that wall can sometimes be a barrier to that person successfully participating in services. And with regards to employment services, that can be a barrier to them becoming employed and maintaining that employment. And so I had my own struggles with employment. Being on the autism spectrum and being in places of employment, I've had a lot of challenging experiences, some hilarious and some that resulted in me being unemployed. And so I felt inauthentic as I was working with people who had the exact same struggles that I had, and me choosing to not disclose my own experiences, because there's a lot of power in peer support. When someone is in need of support and they hear from somebody who's been there and has moved on, that can be very helpful. And so that's ultimately why I started to do what I do the way I do it, and it's why I continue to do that, and it's why I've created an organization where everybody that works at CISL, at Central Iowa Center for Independent Living, also does what I do.
That's awesome. Can you please tell us, what do you have exciting going on in 2019? Do you have anything new that you're going to be engaging in?
Well, it's nothing new, more just extensions of what I've been blessed to be able to do for the past few years. I'll be traveling the country and speaking at several conferences on disability in the political process. I did run for office last year, the first openly autistic person in the US to do so. And then disability and intersectionality, hugely important. I can't tell you how many folks fail to realize that disability is not just an experience in the white community. African Americans experience disability, Indigenous Americans experience disability, and so on and so forth. And if you are a service provider and you don't have cultural competence with regards to racially marginalized people, that can impact your ability to provide effective services to disabled folks. So
thank you, Reyma. And how can LinkedIn get in contact with you if they need you to provide a workshop or would like you as a guest speaker?
I'm very easy to look for on LinkedIn, just my name, Reyma McCoy McDeid. I'm probably the only person on LinkedIn that has two Irish last names, one right after another. But that's a great place to find me, and I'm pretty diligent about keeping up with the messages on there.
Thank you so much for your time and all the wonderful information you shared with us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Zakia. I appreciate this opportunity.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.